The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers as Miranda's voice drifted through the kitchen window above my head. I was sprawled under my beat-up Ford pickup in the driveway, trying to fix yet another oil leak, when her words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "He's so clueless, it's almost cute," she was saying into her phone, probably on another one of her endless Zoom calls. "Chad's twice the man Eddie is, look at his abs. And the bank account helps too." I lay there in the cold October dirt, staring up at rusted metal and feeling my world collapse around me. My name is Eddie Torrino, and I'd just learned my wife of 12 years was cheating on me. With Chad fucking Morrison, no less, the local fitness influencer who strutted around town like he owned the place. Well, I guess my six-pack of Bud doesn't count for much these days. Miranda kept talking, her voice getting more animated. "Eddie's at another dead-end job, installing security cameras for small businesses. Meanwhile, Chad's pulling in 6 figures from his wellness consultancy. The contrast is stark." I rolled out from under the truck and sat up, wiping grease on my jeans. Through the kitchen window, I could see Miranda pacing back and forth, gesturing wildly as she talked. Her blonde hair caught the light, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with in college. Before she discovered Instagram filters and started calling herself a lifestyle consultant. "The plan is working perfectly," she continued. "Eddie suspects nothing. By Christmas, I'll have enough evidence of his inadequacies to take him for everything in the divorce." My hands started shaking, and it wasn't from the cold. Evidence of my inadequacies. What the hell did that mean? I crept closer to the window, staying low behind the hydrangea bushes Miranda had insisted we plant last spring. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was hiding behind flowers while my marriage died. "Chad thinks we should move faster," Miranda said, laughing at something the person on the other end said. "He wants me to provoke Eddie into doing something stupid. Get him arrested for domestic violence or something. Make the divorce easier." The blood drained from my face. They were actively plotting to frame me, to destroy not just my marriage, but my entire life. "Oh, Zara, you're brilliant," Miranda gushed. "Yes, the hidden bank account is perfect. I've been moving money there for months. Eddie's too stupid to notice." Zara. That would be Miranda's best friend since college, the social media strategist who always looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her designer shoes. Apparently, she was in on this too. I'd heard enough. My legs felt like jelly as I stood up, my mind racing. 12 years of marriage, and this is what it had come to. My wife plotting my destruction with her lover and best friend, like it was some kind of game. But here's the thing about being underestimated your whole life. You learn to pay attention, you notice things, and you sure as hell learn how to fight back. I walked around to the front of the house, making sure to slam the door when I came inside. "Hey, babe," I called out loudly. "Truck's fixed. I'm gonna grab a shower." Miranda appeared in the kitchen doorway, all smiles and fake concern. "How did it go, honey? You've got grease all over your shirt." "Just another day in paradise," I said, forcing a grin. "You know how it is." She nodded sympathetically, already turning back to her phone. "I'm just finishing up a client call. Dinner in an hour?" "Sounds perfect." I headed upstairs, my mind already working. If Miranda wanted to play games, I'd give her a game she'd never forget. But first, I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. While the shower ran, I carefully went through Miranda's things. Her laptop was password protected, but I knew her patterns. She used the same password for everything. Our daughter Ava's birthday followed by Chad's initials, subtle as a brick through a window. What I found made my stomach turn. Months of explicit texts between Miranda and Chad, photos of them together in hotels I couldn't afford, screenshots of our joint bank account, with notes about which assets would be easiest to liquidate. But the worst part was a folder labeled Eddie Evidence. It was full of photos of me at my most unflattering moments, coming home exhausted from work, drinking beer on the couch, arguing with Miranda about money. Each photo had a timestamp and a note about how it could be used in divorce proceedings. They'd been documenting my life like I was some kind of specimen. I was still staring at the screen when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but I recognized the attached video immediately. It showed me from earlier that afternoon, keying Chad's precious Audi in the parking lot of the Riverside Motel and slashing his front tire. The message was simple. Smile for the camera, tough guy. Z. My blood ran cold. I'd been so focused on following Miranda that I hadn't noticed someone following me. Zara had been watching, waiting for me to do something stupid, and I'd walked right into their trap. But as I sat there, dripping wet in my towel, staring at the evidence of my wife's betrayal, something shifted inside me. The hurt and shock began crystallizing into something harder, colder. If they wanted to play dirty, I could play dirty too. After all, I was the one who installed security systems for a living. I knew all about cameras, about watching and waiting, about gathering evidence. And unlike them, I actually knew how to be subtle about it. The next morning, I woke up before dawn and lay in bed listening to Miranda breathe beside me. She looked peaceful, almost innocent in the gray morning light filtering through our bedroom curtains. It was hard to believe this was the same woman who'd spent months plotting my destruction. I slipped out of bed and padded downstairs to the kitchen, where I made coffee and started planning my counterattack. The first rule of any good security system is redundancy. Multiple cameras, multiple angles, multiple ways to catch what you're looking for. Miranda had made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated me so completely that she'd gotten sloppy, and sloppy people leave trails. By the time she came downstairs, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop, ostensibly checking work emails, but actually researching everything I could find about Chad Morrison's business empire. "Morning, honey," Miranda said, giving me a quick peck on the cheek as she reached for the coffee pot. "Sleep well?" "Like a baby," I lied. "You?" "Oh, you know how it is. Lots on my mind with the new client launches." "Right. Client launches. Is that what we're calling it now?" "Speaking of which," she continued, settling into the chair across from me, "I might need access to our emergency fund soon. There's a big opportunity coming up, but I need to move fast." I looked up from my laptop, meeting her eyes. "How much are we talking about? Maybe 10, 15,000? Just temporarily, until the contracts come through." I nodded slowly, as if considering it. "Sure, babe. Whatever you need." The relief on her face was almost comical. "Really? Just like that?" "Of course. We're a team, right?" If she only knew. While she'd been moving money to her secret account, I'd been moving it too, into accounts she didn't know existed. The emergency fund she was talking about currently contained exactly $7.32. "I love you," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "Love you too," I replied, and for a moment, I almost meant it. This was the woman I'd married, the mother of my daughter. But that woman was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. After Miranda left for her office, a WeWork space she rented to look more professional, I got to work. My first stop was Big Frank's boxing gym, a run-down place in the industrial part of town where I'd been working out since high school. Frank Kowalski was 65 years old, built like a fire hydrant, and had been training fighters since before I was born. He was also one of the few people in town who'd never been impressed by Chad Morrison's social media presence. "Eddie," Frank called out as I walked in, "you look like shit, kid. What's eating you?" I told him everything. Frank listened without interrupting, occasionally grunting or shaking his head. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment, working the heavy bag with methodical precision. "So what are you going to do about it?" he finally asked. "I'm working on it." Frank stopped punching and turned to face me. Let me tell you something, Eddie. I've seen a lot of fights in my time. The guys who win aren't always the strongest or the fastest. They're the ones who think 3 moves ahead. What are you saying? I'm saying don't get mad, get creative. That afternoon, I installed a few extra security cameras around my own house, tiny, nearly invisible ones that Miranda would never notice. If she wanted to document my life, turnabout was fair play. I also paid a visit to Tina's Tavern, the dive bar where half the town went to drink away their problems. Tina Kowalski, Frank's niece, had been tending bar there for 15 years, and she knew everyone's secrets. More importantly, she dated Chad Morrison briefly 2 years ago, before he'd dumped her for someone with more Instagram followers. Eddie Torrino, Tina said as I slid onto a bar stool. Bit early for you, isn't it? Just a Coke, I said. I wanted to ask you about something. Tina's expression grew serious. This about your wife and that fitness douche? I shouldn't have been surprised that she knew. In a town this size, secrets had a half-life of about 15 minutes. You could say that. Tina leaned across the bar, lowering her voice. What do you want to know? Everything. Over the next hour, Tina painted a picture of Chad Morrison that was very different from his public persona. The steroids he bought from a dealer in Boston, the fake testimonials on his website, the way he'd cheated on every girlfriend he'd ever had, including Tina. He's got a temper too, she said. Real bad. I've seen him lose it over the stupidest things. One time, some kid accidentally bumped into his car in the parking lot. Chad went ballistic, started screaming about his paint job. Interesting. Why? You planning something? Just gathering information. Tina studied my face for a moment, then smiled. Good. That bastard has it coming. That evening, Miranda came home in an unusually good mood. She'd changed clothes since morning. Now she was wearing a dress I'd never seen before, and her hair looked like she'd just come from a salon. How was your day? I asked as she breezed through the kitchen. Productive. Very productive. I'll bet it was. Oh, by the way, she said, pausing in the doorway, I'm having brunch with my sister tomorrow. You don't mind watching Ava, do you? Of course not. Need that emergency fund card? Her face lit up. That would be perfect, actually. Thanks, honey. I went upstairs and retrieved one of the new bank cards I'd opened that week. The account was in both our names, completely legitimate, and contained exactly $7. Here you go, I said, handing it to her. PIN is Ava's birthday. You're the best, she said, kissing my cheek. The next morning, I dropped Ava off at her friend's house and drove to the Riverside Cafe, where Miranda was meeting her sister Kelly for brunch. I parked across the street with a clear view of their table and settled in to wait. Miranda had dressed to impress. Designer jeans, expensive handbag, jewelry I didn't remember buying her. She was holding court, gesturing animatedly as she talked to Kelly, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. When the check came, Miranda pulled out the card with a flourish. I watched her face change as the server returned, shaking her head apologetically. Even from across the street, I could see Miranda's cheeks turning red. She tried her regular credit card next. Also declined. I'd canceled it that morning. Kelly ended up paying, looking mortified as other diners began to stare. Miranda stormed out of the restaurant, her phone already pressed to her ear, probably calling Chad to complain about her deadbeat husband. My phone buzzed with a text from her. What the hell, Eddie? The card didn't work. I texted back, sorry, babe, must be a bank error. I'll call them Monday. But the best part was yet to come. That evening, I was in my workshop in the basement when I heard voices upstairs. Miranda was home, and she wasn't alone. I crept up to the kitchen and listened. Chad was there, his voice carrying that particular blend of arrogance and stupidity that made my teeth itch. I'm telling you, Miranda, he knows something, Chad was saying. First my car gets keyed, now this bank card thing. It's not a coincidence. Eddie's not that smart, Miranda replied, but she sounded uncertain. Maybe not, but someone's playing games with us. I smiled in the darkness. If Chad thought this was playing games, he had no idea what was coming. The following week, I put my plan into motion. Years of installing security systems had taught me that people reveal their true selves when they think no one is watching. Miranda and Chad were about to learn that lesson the hard way. I started small. A few anonymous tips to the Better Business Bureau about Chad's fake testimonials. Some carefully worded comments on his social media posts, pointing out inconsistencies in his before and after photos. Nothing traceable back to me, but enough to plant seeds of doubt. Meanwhile, I was documenting everything. The new cameras I'd installed caught Miranda bringing Chad to our house while I was at work. They used our bed, ate our food, and mocked me in my own living room. "Look at this place," Chad said in one particularly damaging video, gesturing around our modest home. "It's like a museum of mediocrity." Miranda laughed. "Eddie thinks he's some kind of handyman, but look at that crooked picture frame. He can't even hang art properly." They had no idea they were being recorded in high definition from 3 different angles, but I was patient. I'd learned that from Frank. Wait for the right moment, then strike hard and fast. That moment came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. I was at the gym, working the heavy bag, when my phone buzzed. A text from Miranda. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." Except I knew she wasn't working late. The GPS tracker I'd discreetly placed in her car showed she was at Chad's apartment across town. I finished my workout and drove over there, parking in the shadows across from Chad's building. Sure enough, Miranda's car was in the lot. But there was another car, too, a red BMW I recognized as belonging to Zara. Interesting. What was Miranda's best friend doing at her lover's apartment? I didn't have long to wonder. Around 9 o'clock, voices erupted from Chad's second-floor apartment. Even from the street, I could hear them shouting. Then a window opened, and Miranda's voice carried clearly across the parking lot. "You promised me you'd end it with her." "It's not that simple," Chad shouted back. "We had a deal. I'm leaving my husband for you." "I never asked you to do that." A third voice joined the argument, Zara, sounding furious. "You're both idiots. This whole plan is falling apart because you can't keep it in your pants, Chad." Plan? What plan? I grabbed my phone and started recording. The audio quality wasn't perfect from this distance, but it was clear enough to make out the important parts. "Eddie's getting suspicious," Zara continued. "And now the bank cards aren't working. Someone's onto us." "It's probably just a bank error," Miranda said, but she sounded less certain than before. "Bank errors don't key cars, Miranda. Someone's playing games and we need to figure out who." Chad's voice was getting louder, more agitated. "Maybe we should just call the whole thing off." "Absolutely not," Miranda snapped. "I've come too far to back down now. Eddie's going to pay for every year I've wasted on him." Wasted. 12 years of marriage, and she called it wasted. The argument continued for another 10 minutes before Zara stormed out of the building, slamming the door behind her. She got in her BMW and screeched out of the parking lot, nearly clipping a parked car. I followed her, staying well back. She drove straight to O'Malley's pub on the other side of town, a place I knew she frequented. I parked and waited. 20 minutes later, she came out with a man I didn't recognize. Tall, well-dressed, definitely not from our small town. They stood by her car talking intently for several minutes before he got into a black sedan and drove away. My curiosity was killing me, but I forced myself to be patient. Whatever was going on here was bigger than just an affair. The next morning, I got my answer. I was having coffee at Tina's when she slid a newspaper across the bar. "Page 6, she said. "Thought you might find it interesting." The headline made my blood run cold. "Local fitness influencer under investigation for insurance fraud." The article was brief, but damning. Chad Morrison was being investigated for filing false insurance claims related to his business. Someone had provided authorities with evidence of staged break-ins, fake equipment theft, and fraudulent damage reports. But that wasn't the worst part. The article mentioned that investigators were also looking into his business partner, a lifestyle consultant named Miranda Torrino, my wife. I read the article 3 times, my hands shaking. Miranda wasn't just cheating on me. She was involved in insurance fraud, and if they got caught, it wouldn't just mean divorce. It would mean federal prison. Jesus Christ, I muttered. Gets better, Tina said, refilling my coffee. Word is, someone's been feeding information to the feds for months. Someone with inside knowledge of their operation. Any idea who? Tina shrugged. Could be anyone. Chad's made a lot of enemies over the years. But I was starting to have my suspicions. Zara's late-night meeting with the well-dressed stranger suddenly made a lot more sense. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, trying to process what I'd learned. My wife wasn't just unfaithful, she was a criminal. And somehow, I'd gotten tangled up in whatever scheme she and Chad had been running. That evening, Miranda came home looking haggard and stressed. She barely spoke during dinner, picking at her food and checking her phone obsessively. Everything okay? I asked. She looked up, startled. What? Oh yes, just work stuff. Anything I can help with? No, she said quickly. It's nothing you'd understand. Right, because I'm too stupid to understand insurance fraud. After dinner, I retreated to my workshop and tried to figure out my next move. The smart thing would be to distance myself from Miranda as quickly as possible, maybe even cooperate with the investigation to save my own skin. But I wasn't feeling particularly smart. I was feeling angry. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Riverside Park. Come alone. Z. Zara. The puppet master herself wanted a face-to-face meeting. This should be interesting. Riverside Park was nearly empty when I arrived the next afternoon. October in New England meant most of the tourists were gone, leaving just locals and the occasional jogger. I found Zara sitting on a bench overlooking the lake, looking surprisingly nervous for someone who'd been pulling strings behind the scenes. Eddie, she said as I approached, thanks for coming. Did I have a choice? She patted the bench beside her. Sit. We need to talk. I remained standing. About what? Your insurance fraud scheme? Your plan to frame me for domestic violence? Or maybe about how you've been feeding information to the FBI? Zara's carefully composed expression cracked slightly. You know about that? I know about a lot of things, Zara. The question is, what do you want from me? She sighed and stared out at the water. It's complicated. Try me. I'm apparently smarter than everyone thinks. That got a bitter laugh. Yes, you are. Miranda always underestimated you. It was her biggest mistake. One of many, it seems. Zara turned to face me, and for the first time since I'd known her, she looked genuinely vulnerable. Do you want to know the truth, Eddie? The real truth? I'm listening. Miranda destroyed my life 5 years ago. We had a business together, a legitimate consulting firm. I did all the work while she played the pretty face for clients. Then one day, she cleaned out our business accounts and disappeared with our biggest client. I sat down on the bench, despite myself. What? She left me with nothing. Debts, lawsuits, a ruined reputation. I had to declare bankruptcy and start over from scratch. The pieces were starting to fall into place. So this whole thing, the affair, the fraud scheme, it's revenge. It started that way, Zara admitted. I spent 2 years planning how to get back at her. I knew about her weakness for pretty boys with money, so I introduced her to Chad. I knew he was crooked. I'd done my research. And you've been documenting everything. Every crime, every lie, every betrayal. I have enough evidence to put them both away for 20 years. I stared at her, trying to process what I was hearing. Why are you telling me this? Because you're collateral damage, Eddie. And despite what Miranda thinks, you don't deserve what's coming. What's coming? Zara pulled out her phone and showed me a video. It was security footage from inside Chad's apartment, showing Miranda and Chad discussing their insurance scams in explicit detail. The FBI is moving next week, she said. They'll arrest both of them. Miranda will try to claim you were involved. She's already been setting you up as the fall guy. My blood went cold. What do you mean? The fake receipts in your name, the equipment purchases she made using your credit cards, the storage unit she rented with your ID. She's been building a paper trail that leads straight back to you. I felt sick. Why would she do that to me? Because she's a sociopath, Eddie. She doesn't care who gets hurt as long as she comes out ahead. We sat in silence for a moment, watching ducks paddle across the lake. My entire world was collapsing, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. There is one option, Zara said quietly. What? Help me finish this. Help me make sure Miranda gets exactly what she deserves. I looked at her suspiciously. What's the catch? No catch. I have all the evidence I need to clear your name and destroy hers. But I need someone on the inside, someone she trusts. She doesn't trust me. She thinks I'm an idiot. Exactly. Which means she won't see you coming. I thought about it for a long moment. Working with Zara felt like making a deal with the devil. But Miranda had already damned me. At least this way I might have a chance to save myself. What do you need me to do? Zara smiled, and for the first time it looked genuine. There's a meeting tomorrow night. Miranda, Chad, and their lawyer. They're planning to finalize their exit strategy before the FBI closes in. How do you know about it? Because I'm invited. As far as they know, I'm still Miranda's loyal best friend. And you want me to crash the party? I want you to record it. Get them on tape discussing how they've been setting you up. With that evidence, plus what I already have, we can bury them both. I stood up and walked to the edge of the lake, trying to clear my head. Everything Zara was telling me made sense, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being manipulated again. How do I know you're not playing me too? I asked without turning around. You don't, she admitted. But what choice do you have? Miranda's already thrown you under the bus. At least this way, you get to fight back. She was right, and we both knew it. I was trapped in a game I didn't understand, with rules that kept changing. But maybe it was time to stop being a pawn and start being a player. Where's the meeting? Chad's apartment, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. I turned back to face her. And after this is over, what happens to us? We go our separate ways, Zara said. You rebuild your life, I rebuild mine. Miranda and Chad go to prison where they belong. Sounds too good to be true. Maybe, but it's the best offer you're going to get. I thought about Miranda, sleeping beside me every night while plotting my destruction. I thought about Chad, laughing at me in my own house. I thought about 12 years of marriage reduced to evidence in a federal investigation. Okay, I said. I'm in. Zara nodded and stood up. Good. I'll text you the details. As she walked away, I remained by the lake, watching the sun set behind the trees. Tomorrow night, one way or another, this nightmare would be over. I just hoped I'd survive it. The next evening, I parked 3 blocks from Chad's apartment and walked through the shadows, my heart pounding with every step. I'd spent the day installing micro cameras and audio equipment, the same high-end gear I used for corporate security jobs. If I was going to record Miranda's confession, I wanted it to be crystal clear. Chad's building was a converted warehouse in the trendy part of town, all exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of place that screamed, "I'm successful," to anyone within a 5-mile radius. I slipped around to the back entrance where Zara had promised to leave a door propped open. Sure enough, the service entrance was unlocked. I made my way up the back stairs to the 2nd floor, my equipment bag slung over my shoulder. Chad's apartment was at the end of the hall, and I could already hear voices inside. The utility closet across from his door was unlocked, Probably a fire code violation, but convenient for my purposes. I set up my equipment and settled in to wait. Through the thin walls, I could hear Miranda's voice, tense and agitated. The FBI contacted my bank today asking about large cash deposits. They're getting close. Calm down, Chad replied. Everything's under control. Under control? Miranda's voice rose. They have our financial records, Chad. They know about the fake receipts, the staged break-ins, all of it. A third voice joined the conversation. A man I didn't recognize, probably their lawyer. The important thing is to stay calm and stick to the plan. We've established a clear paper trail leading to your husband. As far as anyone can prove, he was the mastermind behind the entire operation. My blood boiled. They were sitting there, calmly discussing how to frame me for their crimes. Eddie's too stupid to pull off something this sophisticated, Miranda said. Will anyone actually believe he was behind it? They'll believe what the evidence tells them, the lawyer replied. And the evidence clearly shows that Edward Torrino opened the accounts, rented the storage units, and purchased the equipment. His fingerprints are on half the receipts. Because I forged them, Miranda said with a laugh. God, he signs everything I put in front of him without even reading it. I gripped my recording equipment tighter, fighting the urge to burst through the door and confront them directly. But I needed to hear everything. What about Zara? Chad asked. She's been asking a lot of questions lately. Zara's fine, Miranda said dismissively. She's been my best friend for 15 years. She'd never betray me. I don't know, Chad said. Something feels off about her lately. You're being paranoid, Miranda replied. Zara's the one who helped me set up the whole Eddie frame job in the first place. She's as invested in this as we are. Wait, what? She was brilliant with the storage unit idea, Miranda continued. Using Eddie's ID to rent it, then planting the stolen equipment there. When the FBI finds it, they'll think he was the one running the whole operation. My head was spinning. Zara had helped frame me, but she'd just told me she was trying to help clear my name. And the domestic violence angle? The lawyer asked. That's still in play, Miranda said. I have videos of Eddie losing his temper, photos of bruises I gave myself. If the fraud charges don't stick, I can always claim he was abusing me and forced me to participate. I felt sick. Every conversation we'd had, every moment of supposed intimacy, she'd been planning my destruction the entire time. The timing has to be perfect, the lawyer continued. We need to disappear before the arrests happen, but not so early that it looks suspicious. When? Chad asked. Tomorrow night. I have a boat waiting at the marina. We'll be in international waters before anyone realizes we're gone. What about Eddie? Miranda asked. What about him? He'll be in federal custody, facing 20 years in prison. By the time he figures out what happened, we'll be sipping cocktails in a non-extradition country. They all laughed at that, and something inside me snapped. I'd heard enough. I burst out of the utility closet and kicked open Chad's door, my recording equipment still running. Surprise, assholes! The three of them froze like deer in headlights. Miranda went pale, Chad jumped to his feet, and the lawyer, a thin man in an expensive suit, started reaching for his briefcase. Eddie, Miranda gasped. What are you doing here? Listening to you plan my destruction, I replied, holding up the recording device. Smile for the camera, honey. You're about to be famous. Chad stepped forward, his face red with anger. You son of a bitch! You've been spying on us. Just returning the favor, I said. By the way, how's your insurance investigation going? I hear the FBI has some interesting questions about your business practices. You don't understand what you're dealing with, the lawyer said, standing up slowly. This is bigger than you think. Really? Because it looks pretty simple to me. You're all criminals and you've been trying to frame me for your crimes. Miranda found her voice again. Eddie, please. Let me explain. Explain what? How you've been cheating on me for months? How you've been stealing money from our accounts? Or how you've been planning to send me to prison for crimes I didn't commit? It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she said, tears starting to flow. I never meant for you to get hurt." "Bullshit," I shouted. "You planned every detail, the fake receipts, the storage unit, the domestic violence allegations, all of it." Chad moved toward me, his fists clenched. "Give me that recording, Eddie. Now." "Or what? You'll beat me up? Go ahead, Chad. Add assault to your list of charges." He lunged at me, but I was ready for him. Years of boxing training kicked in, and I sidestepped his clumsy attack. Chad crashed into the wall behind me, grunting in pain. "Stay down," I warned him. "I'm not done talking." Miranda was sobbing now, her carefully applied makeup running down her cheeks. "Please, Eddie, I'll make this right. We can work this out." "Work it out? You were planning to disappear tomorrow night and leave me to rot in prison." I panicked. I wasn't thinking clearly. "You've been planning this for months, Miranda. Don't insult my intelligence." The lawyer was edging toward the door, but I blocked his path. "Where do you think you're going?" "This is between you and your wife," he said nervously. "I'm just legal counsel." "You're an accessory to fraud and conspiracy," I replied. "You're not going anywhere." That's when I heard footsteps in the hallway. Multiple sets, moving quickly and purposefully. "FBI, open up." The door exploded inward, and suddenly the room was full of federal agents in tactical gear. Someone shouted for everyone to get on the ground, and chaos erupted. Through the confusion, I saw Zara standing in the hallway behind the agents, a satisfied smile on her face. She'd played us all. The FBI processing center was exactly as depressing as you'd imagine. Fluorescent lights, beige walls, and the lingering smell of industrial disinfectant. I sat in an interrogation room for 3 hours before Agent Sarah Martinez finally walked in with a thick file and 2 cups of coffee. "Mr. Torrino," she said, settling into the chair across from me. "You've had quite an evening." That's one way to put it. She opened the file and spread several photographs across the table. "These are surveillance photos of you outside Chad Morrison's apartment building. We've been watching his place for weeks." "So you saw everything?" "We saw you break into the building and hide in a utility closet. We heard you threaten Mr. Morrison and his associates, and we have you on tape admitting to various acts of vandalism and stalking." My heart sank. Even with everything I'd recorded, I was still going to be charged as a criminal. "However," Agent Martinez continued, "we also heard some very interesting conversations before you arrived." She pulled out a small recording device, much more sophisticated than mine. "Ms. Chen has been working with us for 6 months, providing evidence of the insurance fraud conspiracy." "Zara's been working with you?" "Ms. Chen came to us after she discovered that your wife and Mr. Morrison were planning to frame you for their crimes. She was concerned that an innocent person was going to be destroyed." I stared at the agent, trying to process what she was telling me. "So Zara was trying to help me?" "In her own way, yes, though her methods were unconventional." Agent Martinez played back portions of the evening's recordings. Miranda's voice filled the room, clearly detailing how she'd forged documents in my name and planted evidence to frame me. "Your wife made a serious mistake tonight," the agent said. "She confessed to multiple federal crimes while trying to implicate you. The evidence is overwhelming." "What happens now?" "That depends on you, Mr. Torrino. We're prepared to offer you immunity in exchange for your cooperation in prosecuting the other defendants." It was a no-brainer. "What do you need from me?" Over the next hour, Agent Martinez walked me through the details of the case. Miranda and Chad had been running insurance scams for over 2 years, staging break-ins and equipment thefts to collect fraudulent payouts. They'd used my identity to open accounts and rent storage space, creating a paper trail that would have destroyed me if Zara hadn't intervened. "Why did Zara really do it?" I asked. "What was her motivation?" Agent Martinez hesitated. "Miss Chen had her own history with your wife. Apparently, Mrs. Torrino had betrayed her in a previous business relationship." "So this was revenge?" "Partially. But Miss Chen also seemed genuinely concerned about you. She said you didn't deserve to be collateral damage in their war. I thought about my conversation with Zara at the park, how she'd seemed almost apologetic about involving me. Maybe she really had been trying to protect me in her own twisted way. Where is she now? Ms. Chen. She's in witness protection until the trial. This case has attracted some dangerous people. Mr. Morrison had connections to organized crime that we're still investigating. The door opened, and another agent stuck his head in. Martinez, the lawyer's ready to deal. Agent Martinez stood up. Excuse me for a moment. While she was gone, I sat alone with my thoughts. 12 years of marriage, destroyed in a single evening. My wife was going to prison, my home was probably going to be seized as evidence, and my daughter was going to grow up knowing her mother was a criminal. But at least I was free. Agent Martinez returned 20 minutes later, looking pleased. Good news, Mr. Torrino. The lawyer's cooperating fully. He's provided us with financial records going back 3 years, plus the names of other clients involved in similar schemes. What about Miranda and Chad? They're both in custody. Mr. Morrison tried to claim diplomatic immunity. Apparently, he has a fake passport from some Caribbean nation. Your wife is maintaining her innocence, but the evidence is overwhelming. I nodded, feeling numb. When can I go home? Soon. We'll need you to come back tomorrow to sign some paperwork, but you're free to leave tonight. As I stood to go, Agent Martinez handed me a business card. Mr. Torrino? For what it's worth, I think you handled this situation with remarkable restraint. A lot of men in your position would have done something much more violent. I thought about it, I admitted. But you didn't. That says something about your character. I walked out of the federal building into the cool October night, breathing free air for the first time in hours. My truck was still parked 3 blocks from Chad's apartment, and I drove home slowly, trying to process everything that had happened. The house felt different when I walked in, emptier somehow, like Miranda's betrayal had poisoned the very air. I poured myself a drink and sat in my kitchen, staring at the security monitors I'd installed to catch my cheating wife. My phone rang. It was my brother Max, calling from California. Eddie? Jesus, I just saw the news. Are you okay? I'm alive, I said. That's something. The reporter said Miranda was arrested for federal fraud charges. Is that true? Among other things, yeah. Max was quiet for a moment. I never liked her, you know. There was always something off about her. You could have mentioned that 12 years ago. Would you have listened? Probably not. I'd been so infatuated with Miranda's beauty and ambition that I'd ignored every red flag. What are you going to do now? Max asked. I don't know. Start over, I guess. You could come out here. I've got plenty of work for someone with your skills. Maybe I need to think about Ava first. My daughter was staying with Miranda's parents until this mess got sorted out. They were good people who didn't deserve to be caught up in their daughter's crimes. After I hung up with Max, I walked through the house one more time. In our bedroom, I found the hidden folder where Miranda had kept her Eddie evidence, all those unflattering photos she'd planned to use against me in divorce court. I deleted every single file. In the morning, I would call a lawyer and start divorce proceedings. I would cooperate fully with the FBI investigation. I would figure out how to rebuild my life from the wreckage of my marriage. But tonight, I just wanted to sit in my kitchen and drink a beer in peace, knowing that for the first time in months, no one was plotting my destruction. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Epilogue. The final blow. 6 months later, I was sitting in the back row of Federal District Court, watching Miranda's sentencing hearing. She'd pled guilty to conspiracy, fraud, and money laundering in exchange for a reduced sentence of 8 years in federal prison. Chad had gotten 12 years. Apparently, his connections to organized crime had made his case much worse. The lawyer had received 5 years and disbarment. Miranda looked different in her orange jumpsuit, smaller somehow. When the judge asked if she had anything to say before sentencing, she stood up and turned toward the gallery. "I want to apologize to my husband and daughter for the pain I've caused," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I lost my way, and I hurt the people who loved me most." I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no satisfaction, just emptiness. After the hearing, I walked outside into the spring sunshine. Agent Martinez was waiting by the courthouse steps. "How are you holding up, Eddie?" "I'm okay," I said. Better than okay, actually. And it was true. The last 6 months had been difficult, but they'd also been liberating. I'd sold the house and moved into a smaller place across town. I'd expanded my security business and was making more money than I ever had. Most importantly, I had full custody of Ava, who was adjusting well to our new life. "Any word from Zara?" I asked. Agent Martinez shook her head. "She's still in witness protection. The organized crime connections made her a target." "Will I ever see her again?" "Probably not. She asked me to give you this, though." She handed me a sealed envelope with my name written in Zara's careful handwriting. Inside was a short note and a cashier's check for $50,000. "Eddie," the note read, "I know money can't undo the damage that was done, but Miranda stole this from our business account 5 years ago. It belongs to you now. Consider it payment for the pain she caused. I hope you can find peace. Z." I stared at the check for a long moment, then folded it and put it in my wallet. It would pay for Ava's college fund, with plenty left over for our new life. "She really did care about you, you know," Agent Martinez said, "in her own way." "I know." As I walked back to my truck, I thought about the strange chain of events that had brought me to this moment. Miranda's betrayal had nearly destroyed me, but it had also freed me from a marriage that was slowly killing my soul. I'd learned that sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who think they know you best. Miranda had seen me as weak, stupid, predictable, someone who could be manipulated and discarded when convenient. She'd been wrong about that. I drove home to my daughter, who was waiting for me with homework questions and stories about her day. We ordered pizza and watched a movie, and for the first time in years I felt genuinely happy. Miranda had wanted to destroy me, but instead, she'd given me the greatest gift possible, the chance to start over with the people who truly mattered, and that was worth more than all her schemes and betrayals combined.